Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Marriage Matters.
Hi, guys.
My name is Glenn Coleman. I'm one of your hosts, Glenn Coleman, and
Tanya Coleman, the other host.
This is the other host. Yep, we're the hostesses
With the mostest.
of Marriage Matters. And for those of you who are watching for the very first time, this is a program that we talk about all things relationships, all things marriage, and hopefully you'll get something today that will inspire you, or help you, or just make you laugh. Because
Yes.
sometimes
You just need to
sometimes
laugh.
you just need to laugh.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
more couples need to just laugh together. I mean, we just had an incident just before taping this show that we shall not announce over these airwaves.
Yes.
That we just had to laugh at.
So,
And it's funny to me, but I don't think it was so funny to Tanya.
yeah. Anyhow.
You want to share what it is?
What?
No? Okay. We won't share.
No, I don't know if I want to share.
Okay. It was funny to me.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway.
It's I guess marriage related, but we'll share it later. Let me get over it.
Okay. You got to get over it?
Like, not get over it, but never mind.
Okay.
Just move on.
Yeah, all right.
Move on.
Moving on.
So, I just thought about something.
What up?
This is our 50th show.
Oh, it is.
50.
So we've
50.
almost been doing this for a year.
Yes.
So maybe we'll have a special show on the 52nd episode.
That's a great idea.
So
I like
52, that's 1 year, right? 52
it.
weeks in a year?
52 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Technically, we've probably been doing it a year because
Yes.
we have done some lives on some instead
Yeah,
of some
and we've
recordings,
also...
so. But we can celebrate on the 52nd show, the official 52nd show. But I think it's pretty phenomenal that we've done 50 shows.
Good job, homie. You rock.
In it to win it.
You're pretty, too.
Oh, thank you, dear.
And by the way, I love your hair. I don't know if you guys noticed this new hairdo.
Thank you.
She's looking all
It's
good.
got a little color, a little
See,
lighten
I
up a
like
little
it.
bit.
I
Thank
like
you.
it a lot.
Something different.
Mm-hmm.
This is what got you in trouble earlier.
Oh, Lord. We'll talk about it later.
Yes. All right.
I can't help it. I like you.
I like you too.
I like you.
Glad
I'm
you
attracted
like
to
me.
you.
I'm glad
And I like
to
to
keep you that way.
touch you. Okay.
Yeah.
So this week's topic.
Yeah. Why don't we get to that?
All right. So this week
Hopefully we haven't lost anybody.
yeah.
At this
Hopefully
point.
y'all still with us. Anyway, so this week we're talking about the myth of balance.
Yes.
The myth of balance.
Ooh.
And I used to say this all the time. It's like, you gotta be balanced. You gotta live a balanced life.
Mm-hmm.
But the older I get, I realize that balance is a myth.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by that? That you're always gonna have some area of your life that's not, in balance. Well, let me back up. I used to hear people say, marriage is 50-50, And then people would say, well, no, marriage is not 50-50 because you don't give 50% in your marriage. You got to give 100%.
100.
So marriage is 100-100, 100%, 100%. And I understand what they're saying. What they're saying is you have to give your best
Right.
all the time in
Right.
marriage. Okay? But what I want to say to that is you're not always going to be 100% in your marriage. You're not going to be able to always give 100% in every area of your marriage. And so I'll use this as an example. Well, I'll say it this way. Different circumstances, different seasons, different. So let's just say, and I know I said that, marriage is not 50-50, but for the sake of math, and I'm not really great at math, so for the sake of that,
You are good at math.
I'm okay. I'm okay at math. But so let's just say 100% of me is 50, 100% of you is 50.
Okay.
And when we
That's our max.
that's our max.
Okay.
And when we're both operating at 50 together, we are at 100.
Got it.
Does that make sense? So the
Yes.
goal is to keep that level at 100.
Right. Okay.
Okay. But that's rarely going to happen in marriage. You're going to find that sometimes, or a lot of times, I may be operating or at 40%, just depending on where I am at in life.
Right.
You know, I could be operating at 40%. So if we want to live, or if we want our relationship to be at 100%, then that means that you're going to have to operate at 60%.
Right.
To make up for my 40%.
Right.
And vice versa. Sometimes I may be, you may be operating at 40%. So that means I may have to operate at 60% to get us to that 100.
Right.
But then there are going to be some times where we may be both at 40. And so we're only functioning at 80%.
Yeah.
And so, you know, let me give you a more tangible example of that. So, well, we've talked about this before on the podcast, but, you know, it'll be 1 year. It was 1 year this past December. Tanya graduated with her master's degree in, I always get it messed
Clinical mental health counseling.
up. Clinical mental health counselor. She's so smart. She's so pretty. Okay, anyway, what was I saying? Okay, so she got her master's degree. So she went back to school, right? Not only was she in school full time, she was working full time. Maybe I should give her this shirt. She should be wearing this shirt, okay? All right, you want to switch real quick?
No.
Okay, anyway.
You wear the shirt because you held it down.
Yes, true.
did
Thank you, baby.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, but during that time, there was not a lot she could do other than go to work and study and do work and be in class and write papers and do research. That's it. So when it came to laundry, when it came to
Making sure that the kids
got what they needed to do and did what they needed to do, and I didn't cook. She still cooked because I'm just not great in the kitchen. That's just not my thing. Or maybe I had to go and pick something up.
Right.
And we did a lot. We shout out to HelloFresh.
Hello.
You know what I'm saying? If you want to become a sponsor of the podcast,
Yes,
you know, you
absolutely.
can. HelloFresh and Green Chef. We did HelloFresh and Green Chef, which is like a food delivery service, and everything comes prepackaged and all the right portions, and you just put
Right.
everything together. And our 14-year-old, now
Yeah,
15-year-old,
yeah.
stepped up and she cooked a lot of the meals.
did, like,
you know,
full
but my
meals.
point is that during that time, Tanya could not operate at her 50%.
Yeah.
She probably, as it pertains to our relationship, I don't know, she may have been around maybe 25.
25, 30%.
You know, but here's the deal. We knew that was going to last for a certain amount of time. So going into that, then that ties back into what we talked about last week, which
Right,
is
with the
planning.
planning.
So we were able to plan for that. So I knew that for that 2 year, was
Two
it
and a half
2.5 year period, it wasn't going to be much more that she could do. So that took a toll on our relationship as far as the time we could spend together.
Right.
That took a toll on. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, thinking about, you said it took a toll on our time. You know, thinking about the evenings, the nights where you want to come in and spend time with me and things of that nature. And most often, I was either falling asleep or you went to bed long before I did,
Yep.
because I was working and studying and doing
Yeah.
all of those things.
So that took a toll. You know, I'm a quality time and touch person. Those are my love languages. But I knew during that 2.5 years, hey girl, you better stop now. We're on the podcast now. Touch is my language. From what happened earlier. Maybe we'll tell you guys about that. Anyway, but I knew that there's not going to be even our sex life. There was some change, because you know at night, you know, I take my shower and I'm like, oh, it's on. I go in the room, like you said, either you upstairs working or you be. And you know, I had to say, you know what, for these two, and I'm gonna say that, you know, it just was non-existent.
No,
but there was some
Right.
sacrifices that we had to both make, and we had to. And look, guys, you have to know that it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. You don't have to have the fairy. Nobody has the fairy
fairy
tale. You know, this is not the Cosby Show.
Right.
That was a script. It doesn't always have to be nice, neat, and pretty.
Here's the thing, though, that I think that we have to realize that in order to understand when one of the spouses, is not meeting their 50% in the relationship, in order to make some shiftings and some adjustings, that we have to make sure that the relationship is healthy. You know, so our communication has to be good. Our trust has to be good. You know, I have to be able to know that, you know, I can trust you to take care of the things that I'm not able to really focus on and invest time into during, you know, this span of period where I am working on something else that's going to not only improve my life but improve our lives. You know, that relationship part has to be intact. And so what happens is when a person's percentage of investment in the relationship drops, sometimes the other individual, because the relationship isn't at a healthy place, doesn't understand that. And so then you get arguing, you know, the questions are being asked, you know, are you being unfaithful? You know, do you still love me? Do you want to leave? You don't want to be here anymore. You know, you don't help me with anything. You see, I'm trying to do. And so when the relationship isn't healthy, when the individuals are showing up and they're not whole within themselves, then it brings on a lot of other things, you know. So in order to get to the point to where I can adjust, if you drop to a 30 and I'm okay with going to a 70, or if I drop, you know, to a 25, you're okay with, you know, picking up 75, then we have to make sure that we are good in all of the other areas of our lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And that's, see, the goal, guys, the goal is not to have a perfect marriage.
Right.
The goal is to learn how to grow together and complement each other and support each other. Because it's not always going to be perfect, and you have to learn to be okay with it. Like I said earlier, you know, you're not gonna have the Huxtable 30-minute. All that was scripted, and it was designed to have conflict and resolution within that 30 minutes. But it's not always gonna. It hardly ever happens that way.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, and I think it's funny because knowing this, knowing that the balance thing is a myth, that it's and I say it's a myth, but what I'm saying is that balance hardly ever is equal.
Right.
Life is always going to be doing doing this.
Almost like a
and that's what you have to learn how to do is because what you don't want. So let's just say, for instance, okay, let's just say this coffee cup. This is a Marriage Matters coffee cup, by the way. Always shout out to our sister Candace Adams and Rich Creations for these nice mugs.
Yes.
But this is, let's just say this is your marriage. And let's just say this is, I don't know, everything else or something else in your life. So the goal is because this is what you always want, but to be honest with you, it's gonna do this.
Yeah.
Which the challenge or the thing that you have to do is know when to do this.
To bring it back. Yeah.
That's the challenge. And then to know when this needs to, you know what I'm saying? Okay, I need to spend some time with my wife. And I'm gonna have to put this on the back burner. You know, and that's the challenge of life. And that's how life is knowing, because and some people may not agree with this, but if you look at it, you can see it. A lot of very highly successful people in business, in entertainment, in all these other areas, when you look at their marriages,
personal life,
and even when it comes to church, there's a lot. I've seen it time and time again. Pastors and gospel artists, all these people, when you look at their marriages are not as strong. Their children. Because you have to know how to do that balancing act. You know, there's there's a documentary about Quincy Jones. I forgot what it's called. It's on Netflix. Really great documentary. Found out a lot about Quincy Jones, and he was so great. But at the end of that documentary, he said something that just stuck with me. You know, they said, you know, what are you not good at? Because you know, he was a great performer. He was a great musician. He was a great producer. He was a great. He just did all kind of stuff, and he wrote and composed just a plethora of things that he was so great at. And at the end of that, documentary, the guy interviewed him and said, "Well, what are you not great at?" And he thought about it. He's like, "Marriage." And he's had several failed marriages.
Right.
But again, that's, you know, he was great in this area. He was super duper just off the chart in this area. But he wasn't even on the chart when it came to his marriage.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. You know, and I'm not saying that you cannot be great at something. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, you know, the Bible says, there's a scripture that says, what profit a man to gain the whole wide world and lose his soul? Well, my translation, I took that and I said, what profit a man to gain the whole wide world and lose his family?
Yeah.
You know, so you have to determine what that is for you.
Right.
You know, my family is more important to me than anything else. You know, it's more important. So, you know, there's a lot of areas in my life that I had to back off from. Not that I'll ever do them, but I had to kind of
at the level that you were doing them.
Exactly, because you know, and I'm doing a lot of talking here. You know, jump in. You know, whenever you. I'll say this one. Can I say one more thing?
I tried to jump in a minute ago.
When you tried to jump in?
A couple times.
What you said? What you was gonna say? See, we got a balance. See, right now I'm monopolizing the conversation, but it's not fair to Tanya. That, you know, so I'm gonna.
No, you finish your thought though. Finish your thought.
I don't know if I remember. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. So I was talking to one person, and they were telling me, it's like, man, you know, I need more hours in the day. There's not enough hours in the day. So I told him, I said, well, so what you're saying is God didn't know what he was doing when he created the earth. And they were like, huh? I was like, well, God put 24 hours in a day. And what you're saying is he didn't know what he was doing. Well, no, well, you said that there need to be more hours in the day.
Right.
And so I was like, so it's not, there's
God
nothing
24
wrong.
wasn't good enough.
There's nothing wrong with how many hours in a day there are.
Right.
There's something wrong with the way you're prioritizing your life.
Right. The way you are prioritizing that 24 hours that you have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to say this, though, that when you think about balance, anytime that you're going full throttle at one thing, there's going to be something else in your life that you're not going to be able to go full throttle with.
Yeah.
And so something's going to go lacking. So if you're going full throttle at your career aspirations at work, if you're going full throttle in ministry at church, well, we have to realize that there's going to be some time missed with your spouse, with your children. You know, I can't expect to work, 12 hours a day and make every basketball game, be at every play, every performance, if I am working these long hours and still expect to make all of the other obligations that are important as well. And so that's why those discussions of saying, hey, maybe I have a big project coming up, maybe this is going on. So I know that I'm going to have to invest more time in this area. I won't be able to be here as often. We had that discussion last show. We make the plan to make the adjustments and make sure that we are all staying healthy in the process. Another thing that happens typically when people are struggling to balance their life. And so I know this happens a lot for women where there's what we call mom guilt, wife guilt, mom guilt, what have you. And I've gone through all the seasons where I have been at home, being an at-home mom or work from home mom, and I feel guilty because I'm not bringing in enough income in my mind to help support the family. And then you get out and you go to school and go to work to help support the family. And then you feel guilty because I'm not spending enough time with the children. I don't have enough time in my life to make sure that I'm cooking every night, to, take care of all the things and be 100% at home. And so what that does is we start dealing with some challenges in our spirit, and we start dealing with some challenges in our mind and in our hearts. And, you can begin to be anxious, depression and all of these different things because we're trying to keep up with this myth of balance. If we radically accept that for this time period, for this season, things may be a little off kilter. I may not be able to be 100% here, and I have that discussion with my spouse, with my family, and we make that plan of support for this season. Then we may have the 30 here, but we have the 80 here. No, 70 here. My math is a little off. The 70 here, right? The 30 and the 70, and the relationship, the household is still at 100.
And the other part about this, like Tanya, you said it, is having those conversations.
Yes.
And because like right now, I'm going through a life coach certification program. And the program is it happens in Lafayette. So I travel to Lafayette every Tuesday night. So two things, well, just off the top of my head. So our midweek service is on Tuesday nights. And, I love our church. I shout out New Life Church International,
Yes.
Pastor Norman, Dr.
Yes.
David Thomas.
Love you guys. Awesome.
And I love that church. And so I'm usually there almost pretty much every Tuesday night I'm there. And so I had to say I knew for the next year and a half to 2 years, I'm going to miss pretty much every Tuesday night. But I know for this next season in our life and where God is taking us, I know I had to do this class. So I had that talk with my pastor. Say, hey, I'm doing the certification. Tuesday nights, I won't be available. Now, my oldest daughter, she plays tennis. And all of their matches are on Tuesday nights.
Yeah. Tuesday afternoons.
Tuesday afternoons, yeah. And so I told her, I said, hey, Daddy loves you. I love you. And I want to be there. But for this season, I told her, I said, now I'm going to miss class some nights so I can be here and be there for you and watch you play. But I'm probably going to miss more matches than I make.
Right.
But that's just for a season. So she's aware of that. And she may not even be okay with it, but she understands it.
Right.
And that's the key, to know that, we to have those conversations. And like Tanya said, and then I can't feel guilty about that.
Right.
I can't allow that to, because you have to think in that circumstance, I'm thinking long term.
Exactly.
And the benefits that it's going to bring
Yield
to
in
our
her
family
life,
and to her, 6 years down the road.
Right.
And so I just thought I'd.
Yeah, that's great. And you were talking about the benefits. Sometimes you do have to, when you make certain sacrifices and you're thinking about the long-term goals for the family, for the household, for the couple, the benefits outweigh the costs right now. And it's not that, because we adjust. So now we know, okay, this has been a super, super busy 2.5, 3 years of our lives. Mom was busy and a bit absent, present, but absent. Dad is now in a season of making some moves to move forward in some areas of his life that he's called to, which is going to benefit the vision that God has for us and what we're doing right now, long term. But some of the benefits for the sacrifices that we're making, we're seeing now, because the skill set, it's changing the way our dynamics as a family, the way we communicate, the way that we parent, all of those. So we're already reaping some of the benefits of that, So sometimes, guys, whenever those adjustments have to be made in your life, look for the benefit, look for the value in what you're doing.
And think long term. I think a lot of times we're so short. I'm beginning now to think generationally, and not just for me and Tanya, but for not just Bethany and Bailey, but for Bethany and Bailey's kids.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so thinking generationally. So just know that balance, the balance thing, that all the time things are going to be, you know, in balance, even kilter. That's not true. That if, like Tanya said, if you're going all out in this area, know that this area over here, it may be lacking. You know, so and you have to determine, you and your spouse have to determine what sacrifices in which areas are you willing to make for this season or that season,
Right.
in order to help to justify that imbalance.
Right. And
And
so
and come up with a plan, and know that, okay, it's going to be in balance for this amount of time, but
Right.
after this amount of time, we're going to bring things
Back
back
level.
not even level, but now this may dip a little bit, and this is going to be raised. Does that make sense?
yes, I was just gonna say, you know, you said something key to have the discussion with your spouse, guys. Make sure that you're not making these adjustments and decisions and plans and things on your own and just expecting your spouse to jump aboard or to just go along with it. We talk about agreement. That's one of the things that we teach, you know, premarital and marital couples and classes and things like that. Agreement is very important. And so we come to agreement through communication, through prayer, through realizing that, like you said, I may not like this, but I do realize the value that it's going to bring later on. And so I agree that this is something that we need to do for the family. Do I like, you know, that you're gone this many days out of the week? No, I don't like that, but I do agree that this is going to be beneficial. So have those conversations, communicate all the time, communicate often about everything.
Yep. And that's all we got for you today. So always remember, if you want to reach out to us, we love to hear from you guys. You know, you can always direct message us, private message us. And if you want to send us an email, you can email us at info@marriagematterstous.com. That's marriagematterstous.com. If you want to send us a text message or call and leave a voicemail, you can reach out at 337-415-9535. 337-415-9535. And always, we want to thank you guys for sharing and following us.
Yes,
and if you haven't done that
absolutely.
yet, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Marriage Matters 0526. And always, we want to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes, click the little
And
bell.
Click the bell, the notification bell, so you can get notified every time we post a video.
Yes.
So that's all we got for you this week.
One more thing.
Oh, yes.
We want to let you all know that February 1st, that is the first Saturday in February, we will be hosting our first live event at Common Grounds Coffee House on Ryan Street. We will have more information that we will share and post and let you all know, you know, how you can let us know if you're coming or how you can watch online. We will have all that information coming to you, but for now, save the date. We would love to see you there. We would love to have you dialoguing and in the community with us for that live event, whether it's face-to-face or online, okay?
All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Well, this is Glenn and Tanya Coleman reminding you that
Your marriage matters.
We will see you next week.
See you later.